we are discussing a topic titled When Love Hurts. Love can bring a lot of resentment, can bring a lot of pain, can bring a lot of misery, a lot of frustration and disappointment. That is why there is always a very thin dividing line between love and hate. So as we discuss this topic this day, I want you to pay attention to your own relationships and see where pain is coming in, or whether you have even experienced such a frustration before. And then we know how to, get our mind and our body out of such a situation. Once again, my name is Felix Okeke. I am your marriage counselor and coach. Let us first of all look at situations that can turn a loving situation into a hurtful situation. Number one is rejection. When there is a case of unrequited love, you love somebody so deeply and yet that person either ignores you or is indifferent towards you, is not even interested in you at all, and all the investments you have made emotionally, spiritually and physically in the life of that individual comes with no reciprocation, nothing. There is nothing about the individual that shows that he or she loves you back. That is the case of unrequited love. That's the case of rejection. It can bring a lot of it can bring a lot of pain. Another situation that can bring pain in a loving relationship is when there's a case of betrayal, possibly a betrayal of trust. You love that individual so much that you never believed in your heart that such an individual is capable of hurting you, and then that person goes about to hurt you, either getting involved in another relationship or backing out entirely, or doing things you never expected that he or she can do to you. That's a case of betrayal of trust. It can happen in a relationship, whether marriage or simply an engaged couple. It can bring a lot of hurt in a relationship. Another situation that can bring a lot of hurt in a relationship is a case of unmet expectations. There are things you expected so much from such a relationship. You expected that it will move from the level where you are now to the next level. But unfortunately, instead of going forward, the person either shortchanges the whole process or gets out of such a relationship. Or possibly you went ahead with that relationship, but it is not meeting the target or the expectation you expected. These are cases of unmet expectations. It can bring a lot of frustration in a loving relationship. Another thing that can happen in a relationship is a case of, loss, either loss occasioned by divorce or separation, or simply an abandonment. Somehow the person you loved so much that you have invested your life and times and resources in loving simply decides to get out of that relationship. It's a case of loss. It can be something as permanent as death of a spouse, for instance, or divorce, for instance, or, like I said earlier, abandonment. So such can bring a lot of frustration in a relationship of love. Another thing that can also bring a lot of frustration, a lot of disappointment in love is broken promises. That person has promised you so much and delivers so little, or delivers nothing at all. There are expectations you had when you went in. There are promises made from such a spouse. But after you have sworn I do and the relationship have kicked off, you discover over time that the person is not is not fulfilling those promises that he or she made. That can bring a lot of frustration. It can bring a lot of tears. Another thing that can also bring a lot of pain in a relationship is when there are unresolved conflicts, perennial conflicts in a relationship. From the dawn of your relationship till now, a particular thing has continued crippling the wheels of your relationship. And no matter what you do, it doesn't seem to end. Unresolved conflicts, perennial conflicts, it can cause a lot of pain, a lot of hurt in a relationship. Another thing that can also cause a lot of pain in a relationship is what I call self-sacrifice. You have sacrificed so much, you have given so much, you have paid all the dues that you needed to pay in that relationship, and yet it's not yielding the desired result. You have given so much of yourself, and yet the person whom you are giving that to does not seem to care. That is a very terrible thing. It can be very frustrating. So you can see with me that there are several instances where love can bring hurt in a relationship. So in the next segment, I want us to look at how to cope with such a situation. The very first thing you need to do while coping with it is to acknowledge the area of your hurt. Acknowledge it. I have seen so many people who pretend a lot. I know of a woman who lost out in a relationship. There was a divorce between her and her spouse. But each time you meet with her, all she tells you is, it is the man that is losing. He doesn't know what he has lost. He doesn't. But, she pretended so much and continues to pretend as if nothing is amiss. But inside of her, she's been eaten up by resentment and anger. That is wrong. In a situation where you have been betrayed in a love relationship, in a situation where you have experienced a certain kind of loss, or where you have experienced a certain kind of rejection, first of all, acknowledge what happened. Acknowledge the pain. You have a right to be angry. You have a right to feel frustrated. There are emotions that are available to you. You can feel frustrated. You are a human being. This is something you have invested your life, your resources, your energy into, and it has packed up. Then why can't you own up to whatever has happened? Don't pretend about it. Own it. Understand what happened. Appreciate what happened. That's the very first thing you need to do in a matter such as this. The second thing you need to do is to reflect on the situation that gave rise to what you have, to that frustration. Reflect on it. Be more intuitive. Be more meditative. Sit back. Stop the blame game. Whatever has happened because there was a deficiency somewhere. What actually happened? What gave rise to it? Why did a seemingly wonderful relationship have to pack up the way it did? What happened? Reflect on it. Sit back, reflect on it. Don't begin to cast aspersions. Don't begin to lay blame games. Don't begin to criticize your spouse. Don't begin to lay accusations on him or her. No, sit back. Reflect on what actually happened. What transpired between both of you? Why did it get to where it is now? Is it as a result of lack of communication? Were you able to communicate your goals and your values positively towards that individual? Do you actually understand yourselves, or were you living in a mundane, ephemeral kind of setting? Do you actually sit back to understand that what caused this is because you don't actually know him well or her, or you don't know her well? What is it? Is it a miscommunication somewhere? Is it a betrayal of trust? What actually caused that frustration? What is it? Learn to reflect on it. If you can reflect on it positively, it will guide your relationships in further. As life goes on, because certainly you are going to meet some other people in future, and the experiences you have now will help you to enter into a more positive relationship in future. Very, very important for you to do that. The next thing you need to do is also to know how to set boundaries. Yes, what has happened. Now, learn how to set boundaries in your emotions, so that before you invest yourself wholeheartedly in the life of another, also weigh what you are investing. Don't throw yourself totally. Also look at the individual you are investing your resources upon. Are you getting something like that in return? Because love somehow, to be fulfilling, has to be reciprocal. There is something about love. Of course, we know that it is good for you to love and love and love. Yes, but it is also good for you to understand that it works better when there is a reciprocation from the individual whom you love. Where how to set boundaries. You understand? Know what to invest in a relationship, that even if there is a loss somewhere, you will not get into a place of anger and resentment. Know what to spend. I know of people who picked up a woman and trained her from secondary school to the university level, hoping that they will get married. Unfortunately, after the lady graduated, she had other options. And this led these young men, promising spouses, this led them to, years of agony that they never even recovered from. Now, it could have been better if such a person has set a boundary and said, look, I can invest such and such a person, that such and such a resource, so that even if it doesn't work out, I will still be happy that I'm able to get an individual to a certain level of personal growth. You need to set boundaries. There must be something that if you invest this and if it doesn't work out, you don't live totally, broken down to the level where you can no longer, afford another meaningful relationship. Very, very important. I know of a sister who invested all her emotional well-being in the life of a man. When that relationship packed up, the man went on to get married again, enjoying a fulfilling married life. But the sister, as I'm talking to you, is living a massive depression. That is somebody who didn't know how to set boundaries. So know how to set boundaries on your emotions, on your investments, spiritual, physical, emotional, financial investments. Learn how to set boundaries for future relationships. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so immediately by clicking the red button by my side. Once you click this red button, you become a part of this channel, and you can always indulge yourself with so many videos we have done in this channel that elevates relationships really. Please click on this red button and become part of it. The third thing I want to say in this segment is seek support. Sometimes when we're in a relationship, we are so subjective. We are not objective because we are carried away by the love or even lust. Sometimes it is lust, because when you love hopelessly and helplessly, it can enter into the place of lust. Sometimes we are in a lustful situation, or sometimes we are hopelessly in love that we are not subjective enough. It may be necessary for us to speak to friends in a way what our friends feel about our relationship. If you don't have friends that you can rely on their opinion, you can seek the counsel of an elderly couple, people who can be objective enough to look at the relationship you have and be able to, objectively counsel you. It's very important. You can also seek for the services of a therapist, a marriage counselor, or a relationship counselor, whom you can unbutton all your, everything, how you feel. You can unbutton your heart to him or her, and that person professionally, because he's trained for such a purpose, he can look at the various dynamics at play in your relationship and be able to give you wise counsel. It is very important. These are things you do in order to cope with a hurtful relationship. These are things you do, especially even when you have opted out of the relationship, or when the relationship have ended and somehow you find yourself almost going into depression. You seek for counsel, you seek for the support of people. These are people who are close to you, who understands you, who are able to look at you and objectively counsel you on the step forward. You need such people around you. Very, very important. When love has become hurtful, one thing you must do is to practice what I call self-care. Care for yourself. Learn how to take good care of yourself. Not just physically, but emotionally. Learn how to take good care of it. Get involved in preoccupations, in goals, in visions that will minister value to you, that will take your mind off the situation you are having presently. It is important. If you are yet to, if you have a hunger for more knowledge, you can enroll in a school and begin a private study. If you have a hunger for a certain kind of work, but you don't have the skill, you can go out and learn that skill. Get yourself attached to goals and visions that will edify your person. Learn self-improvement. Find a way of improving on whom you are. As you are doing that, it takes your mind off the hurtful situations you are facing. It's very important. It is far better than locking yourself in a room and crying every night and day. It's far better. It's far better than locking yourself up somewhere and becoming a hermit, or going to a mountain somewhere and pretend that you are praying while you are totally in agony. No, find a skill, find a work, find something that will take your whole time. Something that you invest, what I call transferred investment, transfer love. Take your love of a person and transfer it to a skill. Be involved in that skill. Be involved in that knowledge. Be involved in seeking for a lifting. Be involved in seeking for self-improvement, something that will improve your well-being and take you better and better to that goal which you have envisioned from the beginning. It is very important. Practice self-care. That is the fifth thing you must do if you must overcome a love that left you hurtful on the inside. The sixth thing that can also help you is when you make up your mind to learn how to grow from what happened. It is important indeed that to learn how to grow out of the situation, whatever has transpired between you and your lover. It is necessary for you to learn from that experience. Whether it is his fault or your fault, learn how to grow from that experience. Learn how to, look proactively, look positively to whatever has happened. And if there are areas of fault or default from you or him or her, learn how to itemize them and know how to grow from it so that you don't make the same mistake over and over again. It is very important that you do that. If it is a case of loss, for instance, loss that is occasioned by death, you may not know anything. There's nothing to do about it except to appreciate God and hope for another wonderful partner in future. But if it is occasioned by misunderstanding or unresolved conflicts or betrayal of trust, then you need to know how to speak to your emotions. You need to know how to watch what the other person is speaking or whatever is coming from your opposite gender. You need to know. Because sometimes when we are involved in a relationship, we are so engrossed in that relationship that we don't seem to care what the other person is saying. I know of a young man who fell in love with a woman that was married. And even though that woman was saying to him, I am married, please, I don't want this relationship to continue. The young man was so filled with love, so filled with emotions that he won't let go until the day came when there was a bitter confrontation between him and the woman's husband. And of course, the woman backed her husband. And the man went berserk. The man couldn't understand it. That all his investments on this woman, that when it came the time for the woman to actually stand up for him, she backed her husband. These things happen. But if that man has from the beginning looked at the relationship critically and weighed what the woman was saying in return to him, he would have understood that this relationship may not likely go the way he desires it to go. So, what are we saying? I want you to learn from whatever has happened. Learn from it. Make up your mind to learn from it. It makes a whole lot of difference. The seventh thing you also need to do in a relationship such as this is to make forgiveness a very central part of your well-being. Because until you learn how to forgive, you may never recover. Until you learn how to forgive, and not just forgive with lips, but forgive from the depths of your heart. Forgiving means giving up the right to, just setting yourself free from everything that is, that is contrary. Setting yourself free from anger, setting yourself free from resentment, setting yourself free from disappointment, setting yourself free from frustrations that are occasioned by whatever has transpired. You must learn to forgive. Because if you don't learn how to forgive, and this anger keeps building inside of you, it may infringe on your capacity to enter into more productive relationships in future. So learn to forgive. Not just forgiving her or forgiving him, but forgiving yourself. Because whether you know it or not, there are things you contributed that made the relationship back up in the first place. There are things you did. You may never understand it until you actually do what I said in number 2, sitting back and meditating creatively, meditating and finding out your own areas of default. But when you learn to forgive, not just him or her, not just your partner, but learning how to forgive yourself, you enter into the region of joy. Enter into a place where your heart is open to welcome another fulfilling relationship. If you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so. Do so immediately. Look at this red button by my side. Click on it and get subscribed as we go on. The next thing you must do is to learn how to rediscover yourself. Whether the relationship have packed up, whether you are the one that is left out, whether you were abandoned, whether there was a separation, whether there is a case of unrequited love, whether there is a case of betrayal of trust, I want you to know one thing. You are who you are, and there is great value in who you are. The God that created you put a whole lot of grace, a whole lot of value in you, and you must appreciate that value. Don't undermine yourself. Learn how to stand up and look at yourself from a positive perspective. You are not down. You just experienced a hurdle in life, and certainly you will get out of this hurdle and be better and still achieve what you have set out to achieve. Appreciate who you are. Appreciate your goals in life. Rediscover that vision, that great goal which God has set in your heart from the beginning. Rediscover it. Understand who you are. That you were disappointed in a relationship does not undermine the rest of your future. No. Understand who you are. You are the best that God has ever created. And I want you to understand it right now if you must make an improvement in years ahead. It is very important. And finally, I want you to know that the next few days, or few months, or few years must be something you must work on patiently. Yes, you are down right now, but step by step, you will climb out of that pit. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of wisdom. It takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of forgiving yourself. It takes a lot of looking forward to the best there is. It takes a lot of understanding who you are as a person. It takes a lot of knowing that even though a particular relationship has packed up, that there are yet better opportunities in future. It takes that for you to know how to move forward. And I beg thee, whoever is listening to this edition, please wake up from that slumber. Wake up from that frustration. Wake up from that demeaning situation. Wake up from that disappointment. Don't allow that disappointment to lead you through the road of resentment and anger and massive depression. No, it must not be. You are a candidate for the top, and I look forward to seeing you. In the next edition, I will tell us how to prevent love from ending in a hurt. Please look forward to that edition. It is a bumper edition. I'm doing this because I want us to be productive in our love relationships, in our marital love, even in the love when we are engaged to our spouses or engaged to be married. We need to be joyful in it. We need to guide it jealously. We need to make sure that we end in the best place that is possible. So please continue listening to this edition and look forward to the next edition. Really, it's going to be a wonderful one. Once again, my name is Felix Okeke. I'm your marriage counselor and coach, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a wonderful time.